Swerving so hard on the road like this can be very dangerous because you can hit the other cars that are also driving nearby.
Really? No. No way you could hit. No, I didn't know that.
Control and possibly hit something and, you know, thankfully.
Oh, no, really? Oh!
The phrase TikTok trend, usually the first thing that comes to mind is some cringy dances and stupid challenges, which you're not wrong. But
what was that dance? That was a weird dance.
TikTok trend, usually the first thing that comes to mind is some
cringy
cringy dances and stupid challenges, which you're not wrong. But over the years, a lot of the TikTok challenges have gone from cringe to dangerous to death-defying. So what I'm gonna do today is talk about some of the TikTok trends that have gone so far.
This guy should invest in something new or something, bro.
Oh yeah, AD.
Now, if you're a fan of this channel, you know that I have talked about this topic before, but most of the time when I try to do it, I always get restricted, so please forgive me if I start doing the Ray William Johnson TikTok logo by saying words like Unalived.
I think he needs jaw surgery as well.
And also, I'm going to be talking about a lot more trends that I've never talked about before in this video.
Unfortunate for him.
Let's get into it. Now, this first one isn't necessarily a trend, but it did inspire a lot of. Now, it all started when a girl named Tessia Brown posted a video on TikTok when, after she ran out of hairspray, she used Gorilla Glue spray into her hair. Now, for those not aware, Gorilla Glue is something you don't put in your hair because it's glue. So her hair became stuck to her scalp and unmovable. Her video got over 50 million.
But there's like a Gorilla Glue for hair though, innit? Like, I'm not bugging out, bro. There's a Gorilla Glue for hair, so.
And everyone was hooked to her story. She became the biggest laughingstock all over social media, having SNL mention her in a skit and even Nicki Minaj mentioning her in a song. But at the same time, people were sympathetic and actually raising thousands of dollars for her on GoFundMe. She did go to the hospital to try to get the product removed from her hair, but it's not that simple. The nurses would try nail polish remover to get it off of her scalp, but it was no use. Now, eventually, a plastic surgeon did a hair surgery for her that usually would cost 12 grand, but did for free because he felt bad for her. And again, this wasn't necessarily a trend, but it did inspire.
So we raised over 15K, and she just kept that money. Wow.
A lot of. Now, when the story went viral, a man from Louisiana thought that Tessia was lying entirely and tried it out for himself. But instead of putting Gorilla Glue on his hair, he put it on his lips, which is 1,000 times worse. And he had to go through this extremely painful procedure to get it removed. I don't know why he did it or why he thought she was lying, but he did. Another girl was jealous of the attention that Tessia got and decided to put Gorilla Glue in her hair as well. And just like how it was with Tessia, it also got stuck on her. She claimed that this was an accident, but it was very obviously a clout chase move. And at this point, hospitals just straight denied her because this was getting.
I don't understand, bro. Like, are you people just that stupid? Like, are you lot just want to die, innit? You man just don't care about life that God has so graciously given us here on earth. You lot just don't care.
Ridiculous. Like, one time is understandable, second time is wild, but a third time, come the f on now. But a trend that unfortunately did get super popular was the teeth filing trend, where people would use a nail file to grind down their teeth. This was apparently to help fix certain ridges and overall just make your teeth look better. And it possibly also helped them be whiter. And it was also because it was cheaper than a dentist. And while this does sort of make them a little bit more aesthetic, it causes a lot more issues. It makes your teeth a lot more sensitive to hot or cold foods. It can alter your bite formation. You can get tooth decay or infection, and it also can cause extreme bleeding. And that's on top of possibly horrendously deforming your teeth. Teeth don't grow the same way that nails or hair do. So if you mess up your teeth, they don't just magically regrow. But believe me, soon enough, some of the people doing this trend did regret it.
Looking at it just is painful.
It was not painful when I did it, but as the days went on and I would drink cold drinks or ice cream, I felt a lot of sensitivity in my teeth.
So
what do you mean by that?
At least a lesson was learned. But this trend honestly looks intelligent
compared
to the DIY vampire fangs challenge. This kind of feels like a combination of the last two trends because people would super glue fangs.
That fangs thing is kind of tough. I kind of wish I had some fangs. But I just have regular people teeth.
Some people would use other types of glue like nail glue, but regardless, equally dumb. And assuming you learned from the last trend, I don't think I need to tell you why this is stupid. This, oddly enough, did go viral around the exact same time as a teeth filing trend because people don't learn, and 2020 was such a weird time. But hilariously enough though, what actually went a lot more viral was the videos of them trying to take the fangs out after super gluing them in.
Well, fuck. Okay. Okay, oh my god.
But there also were a lot of stupid TikTok beauty hack trends that weren't just bad for your teeth. One of the dumbest by far was the erection cream trend, where beauty influencers would put erection cream on their lips to make them more plumpy. Now, this all stems from a scene in the movie A Nice Girl Like You, where one of the characters does this exact same thing and they get very big plumpy lips. Now, a popular TikToker did try it out for himself and found out that it does indeed work because, well, it does. But also found out that it burns pretty The thing is, any dermatologist will tell you that erection cream does not belong here. That type of product is made for areas with pretty thick skin, and your lips do not have thick skin on them. The swelling is a result of irritation, which is why that
some lips like that, some lips like that,
product is made for certain areas.
Can't
Because
even
putting
lie,
erection cream
bro.
on your lips can cause heart problems, heart palpitations, headaches, drops in blood pressure, and other stuff too. And that's because it's made to be applied on an area that has a lot of blood pumping, hence why it goes on, you know, that certain area. But at least these
I can tell this is the type of guy to watch.
The hospital, unlike the dry scoop
I don't know why.
challenge. This was a trend where people would just ingest a scoop of pre-work powder with no water or anything. And in case you guys don't know, pre-workout is basically an energy powder that is packed with caffeine that is made to take before you work out at the gym. And the way you're supposed to consume it is by pouring the powder into a glass of water, mixing it up, and then drinking it. And this trend probably seems familiar because it's heavily inspired by the cinnamon challenge that was super viral back in the early 2010s. This was when people would try to eat dry scoops of cinnamon powder without coughing. Almost no one was successful doing it, and the horrible failures made some pretty hilarious videos. That trend is not very safe either, but it's nothing compared to this one. These pre-workouts are not designed to raw dog. You should not be ingesting them like that. And doing this can cause heart issues, lung issues, seizures, and death. Now, OF influencer Brittany Portillo did this exact trend and had to go to the hospital right after, because when doing the trend, she had a heart attack.
Alright guys, so I had a heart attack, as most of you guys know, from taking this Redcon 1 Total War, and I dry scooped it, but I think even if I put it in water, I would have been asked out anyways.
She did make a full recovery, thankfully, but this was one of the few recorded cases of this challenge. Again, you're not supposed to be ingesting those types of chemicals like that. But when it comes to food challenges though, I think nothing really tops the cake with the Nyquil chicken challenge. This is easily one of—
Yo, all of these things are American. I don't understand what you lot are doing. I've never even heard of half of these. I didn't know these things existed. What is a Nyquil? What is that?
Worst trends on TikTok because of just how ridiculous it is. Also known as the Sleepy Chicken Challenge, it was a trend where people would basically cook chicken in Nyquil cough medicine. The appeal with this is that you were killing two birds with one stone because you were getting your medication in while also eating some good protein. And if this trend sounds so stupid that it sounds like a joke, well, that's actually how it started. Back in 2017, a Twitter user posted a picture of some chicken being cooked in cough medicine with the caption, "If she makes you
Always
Nyquil
starts
chicken,
from Twitter,
don't let her
bro.
go." And obviously this was meant to be a joke because who the flying would make that for their significant other. But somehow, some way, it resurfaced years later on TikTok and people took it seriously. I mean, for one, dangers aside,
She's in the head, like,
nasty. I mean, I don't think I've ever tried Nyquil before, but it tastes like dog doo-doo. And health-wise, this does the opposite.
I love Nyquil, bro. On a G thing, bro. Nyquil tastes so. I like it when I'm sick and I drink some of that, bro.
Too. For one, a lot of people who did this recipe don't really know the exact measurements, so they end up actually putting way too much cough medicine in there and technically overdosing. And if you guys have watched any drug programs,
basically
that's
lean.
not safe. That could cause dizziness, hallucinations, liver problems, and seizures. But the danger is
one time I took too much and I was gone.
In that type of way, it releases certain gases that you are not supposed to be inhaling. And if you inhale them, that can cause a lot of issues. And that's basically what happened to someone. When a 61-year-old man tried to recreate this challenge, he actually had to go to the hospital and suffered from acute respiratory distress syndrome. And for those that don't know, it basically means that your lungs just stop working. And you kind of need those to breathe. The good news was that at least a lot of kids didn't do this trend, but that cannot be said about the squishy toy trend. This was a trend where people bought specific squish toys from a company called Nido, which were essentially these cube-shaped rubber toys with a certain specific filling in them.
Everything in this video is American. I have no idea what has been happening in this entire video. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I don't understand. I don't even understand what this guy's talking about no more. Acute Down syndrome or whatever he just said. I don't know.
They would
what
put these toys in the freezer and then in the microwave. And the purpose of this was to make the texture malleable. But these kind of toys are not meant to be microwaved, like at all. Freezing something like that and then putting it in the microwave can cause a lot of extreme pressure changes. And that's exactly what happened to a 7-year-old child who suffered extreme burns from doing this challenge.
Poor girl, bro. She don't know. You don't know any better when you're 7. So
After
it's like,
she microwaved the toy, it exploded and the burning gel was all over her skin, which gave her severe permanent burns. Which, as you can imagine, is pretty damn painful.
Sad.
But those weren't nearly as severe as the injuries caused by the milk crate trend. This was a trend where people basically made
I heard about
podium
this
made
one.
out of milk crates, and they would try and get
I know
from
man
one
and
end
ends
to
are
the
doing
other
this
without
one.
falling or breaking the podium. Now, milk crates are not very sturdy. They're extremely wobbly and not made to be stepped on, which is why this trend is so damn difficult and dangerous. This trend was extremely popular back in 2021, getting millions upon millions of views. All the big influencers were doing it, but here's the thing. If you did the trend successfully, you were fine. But if you failed, well, they would suffer a lot of shit. This trend was a lot more dangerous than people thought. A ton of people had broken ribs, broken wrists, dislocated shoulders, and even concussions from doing this trend. It's estimated that nearly 30,000 people were injured from doing this challenge. It got to the point where TikTok had to remove any hashtag involved with it and all of the videos. And if you thought this challenge was stupid, well, you're gonna love the dropping things on my foot challenge. From the name alone, I think you can tell where this is going. And it's exactly what it sounds like. People would take certain objects and drop them on their foot and then rate the pain scale from 0 to 10. And at first,
yeah, like I'm not too sure why you would want to do this. I'm not quite understanding it, bro. Man, them used to go to war and get hurt. They didn't want to get hurt, but they got hurt. Now we're voluntarily hurting ourselves? What?
First, it didn't really start off that
It's all
bad.
American,
People would
though.
drop light objects like hairbrushes or toilet rolls, but then the idiots had to come in and do extremely unnecessary stuff like air fryers, chairs, and monitors. Now, it doesn't take a doctor to tell you why dropping heavy objects like that on your feet is not very smart, but one of the people who did this trend did break her foot. A 40-year-old woman was on a cruise with her cousin and did this trend after having a few drinky drinks. And at first, she did simple things like a spoon and a doorstop that, you know, don't really hurt that much. But then she moved on to bigger objects like a standing fan and a fucking suitcase. Those things
she
are pretty
alright?
heavy. And immediately after dropping the suitcase, she broke her foot and had to get a cast over it. But hey, at least it was only a foot being broken because the trust him trend could have resulted in your entire body being broken. The trust him trend was a trend where girls would stand in front of their boyfriend while they drove at them at full speed and trusted that they would stop in time to not hit them. This was meant to be a cute little trend.
I thought he was about to come out with the trust fool challenge. Man said, let them run you over with a car. Yeah.
See just how much these girls trusted their boyfriends.
The brakes in my track walk aren't that good, babes. I'm not gonna lie, bro. You're getting packed.
Girl, you need to raise your standards. Now, the trend was done pretty safely by a lot of people because if you watch the videos, you can see that they were not really driving that fast. Maybe like 10 miles per hour at most. But that wasn't everybody. I think you see where this is going. Australian TikToker Emily Webb did this trend not with her boyfriend, but with a guy friend. This guy did not stop in time and slammed into her pretty damn hard. At one point with her leg being stuck under the car. And it horrendously damaged her ankle. And she posted the video herself because she thought that it would still get like a ton of views. She said herself that she only posted because it was great content. I don't regret it, but I definitely do not want to get hit by a car again. I feel lucky that it wasn't a centimeter further. It could have been so much worse. I've learned I can't trust a man. Good to know that her main takeaway from this is that she can't trust men. And not to avoid doing really dumb, dangerous TikTok challenges. What a relief. But this next trend takes stupidity to a whole new level. Now, the penny challenge was a challenge where people would put a phone charger halfway into an outlet and then drop a penny onto the prongs. This would cause the charger to start short-circuiting and even start a fire. And you're probably thinking, wow, that's outrageously dangerous. And yes, it is. Which is why a bunch of kids did it. This wasn't...
I mean, like, bro, just
thinking, wow,
pre-man, man.
Outrageously dangerous. And yes, it is. Which is why...
Just look at his face, bro. It's like, bro, of course this guy's doing that, bro. He has nothing else going for him. This is the best thing that's ever going to happen in his life. Look at him. How do you even get that Yo, where your parents were? Your parents really let you go outside looking like Peter Griffin? This is crazy,
why a
bro.
bunch of kids did it. This wasn't like other trends where
You look and call it shaming, whatever, bro. I'm sorry, he needs to lose weight, bro. That's not healthy.
Entire time. You have to understand that when even our charger is still even somewhat plugged in, there's still electricity coming through it. And when the penny touches the prongs, it starts conducting that electricity. This makes the penny heat up to hundreds of degrees in milliseconds, which causes the electricity to jump into the air and then cause a fire. This trend caused so many fires to the point where the fire marshal had to step in and tell kids not to do this. Safety tip, kids. Sometimes old circuit breakers fail to trip and the wires in the wall will heat up to the point of setting your house on fire. As a licensed electrician, keep doing this, kids. Service calls from issues like this is easy money. 2 kids in Massachusetts who did this trend actually got arrested for it. Thankfully, they didn't cause a fire, but they damn near did. Both of them were arrested for attempted arson and malicious intent to property. Because even though it didn't cause a fire, the outlet did explode, which is like a best case scenario when you do this trend. Now, the cha-cha slide is easily one of the most
surge protection in that,
of all time. For this trend, people would drive in the car while playing the song Cha-Cha Slide. Whenever the song went to the left, they would swerve to the left direction, and whenever the song went to the right, they would swerve in the right direction.
Left,
when the song
right.
went crisscross, they would jerk the wheel in both directions or just abruptly hit the brakes.
Do it. But I do this all the time. Every time that one song comes on, bro, I'm there. Left, do it, right, do it. Like, come on, bro, it's not that serious, man. Some people are just so dumb that they just don't know what's going on. They don't know how to, like, anticipate stuff, if that makes sense. Them man there, they don't have the sixth sense like me. I know when to do stuff like that. They don't know how to, they don't know, bro. They're not like me.
I'll tell why this is dangerous, but just for giggles, I'll explain it anyway. Swerving so hard on the road like this can be very dangerous because you can hit the other cars that are also driving nearby. You could also lose your control.
Really? No. No way you could hit, no, I didn't know that.
And possibly hit something and, you know, die. Thankfully.
Oh, no, really? Oh. Man, I'm gonna stop doing it now because he just let me know about the concept. I'm gonna stop doing it.
No one reportedly died from this trend, but there were a lot of accidents that did occur from it. But those injuries don't even remotely compare to the ones.
No one died from this trend. Dumb TikTok trends that got people. Yo, bro, the clickbait. I don't like clickbait like that, bro. I'm a man who doesn't ever clickbait at all.
by the Skull Breaker Challenge. The name of this alone already gives you a little bit of idea of what it's like. This was a trend
that's the tricep thing, isn't it?
One person. Two people would get one person to jump in the air with them at the same time, then they would kick the legs underneath of that third person, making them fall forward and hit their head on the ground. And now I think you see why it's called the Skull Breaker Challenge. The problem with this trend is that people would do it on extremely hard floors. If they did this on a soft surface like a mattress or something, then it would be completely fine, but not on a hard floor. Such sudden force to your head is not safe. And a bunch of kids got serious injuries at best, and at worst got concussions. Several kids were reported to get concussions from this trend, including one kid from Cherry Hill who also had seizures after he was the victim of this trend. The two kids that did this to him were actually arrested and charged. They were charged with third-degree aggravated assault and third-degree endangering an injured person. In the UK, a girl
attempted murder,
broke 3 bones in her neck and a vertebrae. To this day, she is still crippled and her life is heavily affected from this trend. So far, these are only the trends that have put people in the hospital, but what about the ones that actually have caused death? Reminder, viewer discretion is advised, so tread carefully. I don't think there's a better way off to start this one than with the
this guy really needs jaw surgery.
Challenge. For this challenge, people would take extremely high amounts of Benadryl, which is an allergy medication. People would take extremely high doses off of it to get very high, because apparently it would cause hallucinations. The problem with this? Well, taking high doses also can cause death. In 2020, a kid from Oklahoma...
And he's swearing. That's not good. You need jaw surgery and you're swearing? Yo, you got better things to worry about, bro. Stop making my editor work harder, bro. Don't do that again, bro. I'm telling you. You understand? Don't make my editor work harder ever again, bro. I'm telling you right now. I'm not going to tell you again, bro.
Oklahoma died after taking 14 Benadryl.
Sorry, chat.
TikTok banned the term from their app and banned any videos that were doing this at all. And this worked temporarily, but it only lasted so long before the trend randomly resurfaced. A couple years later, a 13-year-old after doing this trend after taking 13 pills.
But when I was 13, I knew damn well that I couldn't take more than one. Why are you taking 13? When I was 13 years old, I would look at the back of the packet and see how many I could take. Paracetamol, ibuprofen, the other thing, Calpo and that, them and there. I knew what was going on, bro. Come on, bro. You're not a bot at 13.
Pills on camera. Literally right after he did the trend, he started convulsing and was sent to the ER. He suffered horrible brain damage and spent 6 days in mechanical ventilation before he passed away. So far, those are the only reported hospitalizations that came from it, but there were definitely a lot more. But this wasn't nearly as bad as the Blackout challenge that so many kids did as well. Now, this trend
the one for BLM, innit? Blackout Tuesday or whatever. I like this one.
People to themselves, essentially depriving themselves of oxygen. And if done a certain way, it would give a euphoric sensation. But if done wrong, well, it causes death. Now, this actually has been around for quite a long time, ever since the 90s, and was deemed the choking game. Basically doing the exact same thing, but just not on TikTok. But again, it was extremely dangerous and has taken lives before. In fact, in 2008, the CDC discovered that around 82 kids have died between the years 1995 and 2007 from doing this game. All of them between the ages of 6 and 19, because that's really who was doing this challenge. Young kids that trying to make their friends laugh. And for so many years, the CDC has been trying to warn people not to do this game and to try and prevent anyone from possibly recreating it. And for a while, it did work. But then, somehow, some way, it made a comeback on TikTok. And tons of kids from the newer generation who had no idea about the dangers of this were now suddenly recreating it. Not a ton of kids did it, but there were shockingly a lot of deaths that stemmed from it. In fact, it's estimated that around 20 deaths total came from this trend. All of them young, naive kids. But some of the parents did fight back. The family of a 10-year-old girl from Pennsylvania who died from this trend sued TikTok. Now, originally when this case was presented, the judge actually dismissed it, citing Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act, which is often used to protect internet companies from liability for things posted on their site.
Let's just have a look at this real quick. Okay. 10-year-old girl. So when you get to 10 years old, you're not fully aware of what's happening yet. You don't really know right from wrong as much as when you're like 13 and 14 or stuff, right? 10-year-old girl on TikTok. First of all, I don't know why a 10-year-old girl is on TikTok. It is what it is. Second of all, I don't know why you're not monitoring what your 10-year-old kid is doing online. Cool. It is what it is. And now you're trying to sue TikTok. For what exactly? Because TikTok didn't do anything. This is you not looking after your poor child, and now she's gone. Now she's chilling with Jesus. Amen. But you know what I mean? It's like, come on, bro.
TikTok. Now, originally when this case was presented, the judge actually dismissed it, citing Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act, which is often used to protect internet companies from liability.
Some people are just so stupid.
But then that decision was actually appealed by a different judge, and currently is still continuing in the trial. 2 families from Texas did the exact same thing when an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old girl died from doing this trend.
Even younger, and you're suing TikTok because you weren't looking after your 8-year-old kid. Idiot. Downy, look after your child. Stop being stupid.
They accused TikTok of intentionally pushing this type of content into their kid's algorithm. But the biggest lawsuit that came from this was a family from the UK that sued for 4 kids dying from this trend. The families all came together and
oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Like, parents nowadays just don't care, bro.
sued TikTok, deeming them as responsible. Whether you think TikTok themselves is directly responsible for these deaths is up to you, but one thing that's for certain is that kids definitely should not be allowed on these platforms, because they can see very, very stupid trends like the Angel of Death trend, because this trend was basically asking for some shit. Now, unlike all these other trends that were actually in America, this one, oddly enough, was in Indonesia. And for this trend, people would quite literally just stand in front of cars while traffic was going on, hoping that they would stop. This is like a much more dumb version of the trust and trend, but also like 1,000 times more dangerous. And if you need me to explain why jumping in front of ongoing traffic is dangerous, well, you're helpless. There's nothing that I can do or anyone can do.
What a bunch of that man jumped in front of a truck, a semi. Like, are you stupid? Oh my god!
It's up to God at that point. There's so many this challenge that I'm not even gonna bother listing them out. But the most dangerous trend on here that honestly I can't even actually talk about easily is the blue whale challenge. This trend is actually so up and so out there that I can't even talk about it on this video. But maybe I'll talk about it another day. But so far, that's gonna wrap up.
Listen, bro. Next time I watch your videos, yeah, I don't want no swear words, no cursing, no bad stuff, nothing related to self-harm. I don't want none of that in the video next time, you understand? Because you're making my editor work overtime and I don't appreciate that. Now, if you man are still watching, subscribe, or you like men.